Our purpose for today's call, we're going to be giving a brief review of the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. We're also welcoming Mary Erlacher from Job Service North Dakota to discuss unemployment. She let us know this morning that Shelley Titteback will also be helping with question and answer. Shelley is with the Job Service Claims Center, so we're excited to have her joining us this morning as well. And then we're going to end today's presentation portion by talking about workman's compensation just briefly. And then at the end of the call, we will be taking questions. Feel free to submit them through the chat feature on Zoom. You can also email us at businesshelp@bowmannd.com. That email will stay live. So please, if you have questions after the call or any day, send them that way. And if we don't know the answer, we will get you to someone that can help answer that for you. Today's call is recorded, so it will be posted on our Growing Bowman County Facebook page, and it'll also be posted on our YouTube channel and emailed out to the participants of this call today. So I'm just going to introduce myself. I'm Taryn Dorr. I am the Executive Director of the Bowman County Development Corporation. On the call with us today, we have Mary Erlacher from Job Service North Dakota. Hey, Mary, are you there?
I am here. Can you hear me just fine?
Yeah, we can. Thank you for being with us today. I'm going to start today. Sorry. Okay, we're good to go. I'm going to start today by just giving a very brief overview of the Family First Coronavirus Response Act. I am by no means an expert on this, but I have spent hours on the Department of Labor website reading over this plan, talking to different businesses about how they are implementing this. So I just want to give a brief overview so you as businesses kind of know where to go and what might fit your business. But I would encourage you, if there are specific details or more questions, go out to that Department of Labor website or reach out to our office and we will help you navigate those resources. There are also labor attorneys out there that specialize in this kind of thing or will help you through this kind of thing. So please reach out to a resource if necessary. We have a lot of information on our slides today for you to reference. But for time's sake, I will not be reading through these verbatim. I wanted to highlight a few key things about this act, but please feel free to ask questions as we go along. So this piece of legislation will enable employers to keep their workers on their payrolls while allowing workers to not sacrifice their paychecks while abiding by the public health measures needed to fight COVID-19. This act went into effect as of April 1st, and it runs through December 31st of 2020. Generally, this act provides that covered employers must provide to all employees 2 weeks of up to 80 hours of paid sick leave at the employee's regular rate of pay, where the employee is unable to work because of the employee being quarantined. That's as goes by the federal, state, or local government order or advice of a healthcare provider, and or is experiencing COVID-19 symptoms. It also provides 2 weeks of up to 80 hours of paid sick leave at 2/3 the employee's regular rate if that employee is unable to work because of a bona fide need to care for someone in a quarantine situation or to care for a child whose school or child care provider is closed or unavailable for related COVID-19 reasons. It also covers an employer must also provide employee that is employed for at least 30 days up to an additional 10 weeks of paid expanded family and medical leave at 2/3 the employee's regular rate of pay, where an employee is unable to work due to a bona fide need for leave to take care of a child whose school or child care provider is closed or unavailable for reasons related to COVID-19. Again, we are providing a lot of information on these slides. I do want to just know a couple things about the Family First Act. This does also cover part-time employees. Even if that employee did not have a sick leave benefit prior to this, you are, as an employer, required to provide this benefit to them up to the number of hours the employee is normally scheduled to work. This policy is for employers 500 or under. If you have over 500 employees, obviously you do not fall under this act. But if you do have under 500 employees, you do qualify. Small businesses with fewer than 50 employees may qualify for an exemption from this requirement for leave due to school closings or childcare unavailability if the leave requirements would jeopardize the viability of the business as a going concern. So you would have to make a case for why your business could not afford to let that employee go home for those reasons. Another point to make, you as businesses have to have this posted for your employees to see. It has to be in an area that is very visible to them. You can also satisfy that requirement by emailing it to your staff members, but you have to, as an employer, let them know that this is available to them. As an employer, every dollar you pay for required leave plus the health insurance premiums during leave will be 100% covered by a dollar for dollar refundable tax credit. Employers of healthcare providers or emergency responders may elect to exclude such employees from eligibility for the leave. You cannot carry this sick leave over from year to year, so the next to the next, and employees cannot be reimbursed for unused leave upon termination, resignation, retirement, or other separation. An employee may also elect to substitute any accrued vacation leave, personal leave, or medical or sick leave for the first 2 weeks of partially paid leave. That is this plan in a nutshell. There are definitely more points to this, and we have emailed this out to businesses. We are happy to go through them in more detail, but those are the highlights. This is to help you ensure payroll in this time, even if the employee has to be sent home, whether they are sick or have a child that they need to take care of. So that is the basis of this plan. Please make sure you are educating yourself on it. Again, there is a lot of information on these slides. Please read through them. I will not read through them today. There is ways to calculate how much you should pay or what it can go up to as well. I think with that, I am going to turn it over to you, Mary, so you can talk. This is the main reason people are on this call today, is to hear from you about unemployment at this time.
Okay, well, thanks. And I also have Shelley on as well. She's, again, from our Claim Center, which is a nice help for the more specific questions. So I just kind of want to go over what our homepage looks like, and that's jobsnd.com. And you can see on the web page here, this is just a screenshot, but if you go to the web page at your desks now, you can look at that homepage, and it's about in the middle of the page where you see regular unemployment insurance. So this is where individuals would go in to file for unemployment, create a username and a password, and then go on to file their regular unemployment. And regular unemployment would be those that have an employer-employee relationship where employers are paying in. The middle one is called that pandemic emergency unemployment compensation, and this is for individuals who have exhausted their regular unemployment insurance claim. So say, for example, they were laid off in November, they only had like maybe 18 weeks and those have already exhausted. This would be where those individuals would come in and file for that extension for an additional 13 weeks. In the green box on the end, that is where some of those individuals, and you may have individuals that you know that are self-employed, 1099 workers, or they're a gig worker, that would be the portal where they would go in to file for their unemployment compensation. They're in both of the portals for the extension and for the self-employed individuals. There is an overview page, which is very helpful to understand what are the requirements, what is expected at this point. In the pandemic unemployment for self-employed, there's also information that needs to be uploaded and submitted when they are applying for their unemployment. At this time, we're still working on programming from our central office on our mainframe. And so those two, are still being programmed, and we have not heard yet as far as when those will be ready to roll out. All three of the unemployment, the regular unemployment, the extension, and the pandemic unemployment assistance is available for that federal pandemic, that FPUC that's on the bottom bullet. That one is that $600 top up that you've heard so much about from the federal government passing through this CARES Act. And so again, we're still working on programming, and when that becomes ready and available, those will just be pushed out along with those unemployment claims. So there's nothing additional anybody has to do to get that additional top up. There's no extra forms or anything like that. So it'll just automatically start rolling in with unemployment. If you go to the next slide, you can see at the top where it's highlighted there, we do have a frequently asked question page for both individuals and employers. So we've been getting a lot of questions, and our central office has been really good at posting some of those questions, especially as individuals and employers wonder about do they qualify for unemployment? Do they not? How is this COVID related, or if it's a regular termination or a quit on an individual, and how that's handled? So they do a good job of covering some of that. Now, when you go click into that document, it is the newer questions are listed at the bottom. So there is a link where you can skip to the new questions at the bottom. Just as Taryn had mentioned, things change so quickly and so rapidly that some of the newer questions at the bottom will be more relevant to once we figured out what the guidelines and the feds are wanting from us. So if you get a chance, take a look at those frequently asked questions. A lot of the questions that we do see are listed in the frequently asked questions. The more very specific, more tailored questions of what if, or this is my instance, or what about this, those are more specific, and just as everybody's wages are different and weekly benefit amounts are calculated differently, each instant is also going to be looked at on an individual basis. So I think, with that, that's an overview of where we're at with filing for unemployment and looking at the frequently asked questions and the updates that we have being pushed out most of the time on a daily basis. Once individuals, even in that pandemic unemployment, and I apologize, I didn't mention earlier, once they've applied for that pandemic unemployment compensation, which is for self-employed individuals, they do need to go into that regular unemployment portal to create that username and password. So then they can see their monetary determinations once those are established. I think that's what I was going to cover for you, Taryn.
Okay, well, we appreciate it. Again, we will take questions and answers at the end of this call, but thank you very, very much, Mary. With that, I'm going to just quickly touch on North Dakota Workforce Safety Insurance. This has come up a couple times. We've received questions from our business community in regards to this. As most of you know, North Dakota law requires businesses, with very few exceptions, to have workers' compensation insurance prior to hiring their first employee. Workers' comp insurance is meant to protect both your company and your employees. There have been some updates and common questions in regards to workforce safety and insurance due to the impact of COVID-19. For specific information in regards to WSI, please direct those to the North Dakota Workforce Safety Insurance staff. We've posted the phone number here as well as their website. I also want to touch on quickly an executive order issued by Governor Burgum in regards to workforce safety insurance. This applies specifically to medical providers and frontline employees. It extends this workers' compensation coverage for COVID-19 to first responders and frontline healthcare providers that are doctors, nurses, CNAs, lab personnel and techs, pharmacists, pharmacy technicians, social workers, chiropractors, dentists, optometrists, dietary aides, and a number of other things. There are some areas in the medical staffing that it does not include. This would be primarily your billing and coding staff, your document processing staff. Some of those services would not be covered under this. Those that are medical first responders would include emergency medical technicians, ambulance personnel, state troopers, police or deputies, and firefighters. So there are a number of areas that this does cover, and it is all listed in the executive order seen on this page. We've also gotten quite a few questions in regards to WSI. And one of them was, are employees who contract COVID-19 eligible for workers' compensation benefits? And the answer is no, unless you fit within the executive order. Is an employee who telecommutes eligible for workers' compensation? We have a lot of staff that are working from home, and so we've had that question, do they qualify for workers' comp? And the answer actually is yes. In general, WSI does extend to those employees who are working from home. My business has been negatively affected by COVID-19 and my payroll will be less than previously estimated. What can I do? We would encourage you to contact your WSI underwriter so adjustments can be made. Or you can submit the revised estimated payroll upon submission of your annual report. Another question that we have seen is, will WSI allow employers to delay payments due to COVID-19? They do encourage that you pay your minimum balance if possible. If you cannot pay the regular monthly installment, WSI will suspend any interest charges through June 30th of 2020. So please contact your WSI to set up a reasonable payment plan. With that, I do see that we have had some questions roll in, and I do want to start. We had a question in regards to the Families First, and the question was, do employees have to have a doctor's note stating they are being monitored or tested for COVID, or is it available if employee states that they have COVID symptoms? In my reading, I did not see that it is a requirement. I do want to check into that just a little bit further, but what I am seeing is that if you have an employee that states this, they do have to document the name of the employee requesting leave, the dates for which this leave is requested, the reason for the leave, and then in a statement from the employee that he or she is unable to work because of this reason. The same actually applies for those who are requesting the leave due to childcare or no school. So the employee is required to document the name of the child being cared for, the name of the school, place of care, or childcare provider that has closed or become unavailable. And the employee also has to provide a statement that no other suitable person is available to care for that child. This benefit will require documentation down the road. So you as employers, we highly encourage you that you are documenting everything through this period. If you are paying an employee who is on leave, document that as best you can. If documenting those details is going to be very important in the end of this. So we encourage you to do that now. Hey, Mary, we had emailed you some questions. Do you have those in front of you?
I do.
Okay, would you mind going over those quick?
Sure. So
Okay.
we had questions regarding company looking to hire individuals, full-time employment, but with the emergency unemployment, nobody wants to work. Do you have any suggestions? I guess my answer, and Shelley can back me up on this as well, if you have made offers of employment and they have turned you down, you can complete a report for unemployment fraud in the Unemployment for Businesses tab. This will put a stop on their claim until fact finding can be done by an adjudicator. So, you know, you can take a look at of that, which also once an adjudicator looks at both sides of the story, they also look at work suitability. And so part of suitability is impact on health. So with COVID-19, the employer would need to show that they have taken adequate measures to ensure the employees would not be in danger of contracting COVID-19. And then we would also, the adjudicator would also need to see the reason the claimant provides for not accepting the work and then issue a determination. So that was one of the questions about, you know, how do we hire and people don't want to? And the same goes, you know, when you get ready to reopen business, you know, if you offer employment and they refuse, those same steps are still what you need to go through in order to notify the claim center. Do you have any other insights on that, Shelley?
No, you spoke to that very well, Mary. Yeah, just let us know and we can put a stop to their claim and it gets their attention in a hurry.
Right. So then they had, there was another question. We have a supplemental employee that has a full-time job at another place. We were notified today that she was laid off and she was requesting unemployment. We offered her as many hours as she wanted, but turning everything down for she has to watch her children. If we have offered her a position, why should we have to pay her unemployment? I guess to me, this one is kind of tricky, just because what we have just gone over with Taryn in that Family First Care Act regarding sick leave for individuals caring for their children. Again, you know, notify the claim center. They will go ahead and take a look at that reason that they are needing to have that suitability for impact on health. So they would also take a look at what the reason was, and that could be a reason that they would allow unemployment, I guess. And Shelley, you can probably speak more to whether that would be an allowable or not. But if she just was laid off, as far as the charging to your unemployment account, as of March 15th, any kind of new initial claim, those individuals would not, those employers would not be charged for that unemployment tax. So March 15th going forward on new initial claims, you wouldn't be charged on your unemployment account. Now, I know that I have gotten questions because you receive a letter that indicates that you're going to be charged. However, I believe that that's just a canned letter coming out from the system that was already programmed. And Shelley, you could probably maybe clarify that a little.
Right. The notice of claims would go out and say that you're going to be charged if that claimant had said that they were laid off due to a lack of work. We will be going back and no charging those employer accounts. Right now we're doing the programming to get the other programs in place, and then we will take care of those employer charges after that, but it will not be too long.
Thanks, Shelley. The other question, we received a notification on a person that we terminated. I'm assuming a notice of claim that was terminated 8 months previous because of a failed drug test. Will Job Service still be looking at documentation that was submitted, or will we be paying either way? And I would imagine it would all depend on when they filed that initial claim. So if it was March 15th and later, that would fall under that governor's waiver of not employer tax accounts not being charged. But you know, that one's pretty specific, and I guess Shelley probably would have a better answer.
Yeah, in that situation, depending on when that person had filed the claim, if they had done it previously, you know, we may have already denied on that claim. So there may not be a charge pending or any charges from that you're liable for. Or if you do respond to the notice of claim in that situation, letting us know that that person was terminated, we would go ahead and no charge your account, even if it had been filed previous to that 3/15 date. And part of the pandemic rules would allow this person to requalify for benefits if they had gone to work for somebody else in the meantime.
Okay, so the last question on that list that you had sent me, we received another notification for an employee that has not worked for us since November of 2018 and has worked full-time at another job since then. Why should we have to pay some of her unemployment? Again, depending on the date of that initial claim, I would assume, and if it's, you know, COVID related, again, the same answer that Shelley gave probably would fit this situation as well, as the waiver that Governor Burgum had given, you know, employer tax accounts not being charged.
Right, and if somebody was to, it's all about the base period with us. If somebody were to file a claim today, they would have 52 weeks in which to use up the benefits of that claim. So any employers right now that were in the claimant's base period, which currently would be all of 2019, would have part of the liability for that claim going through April of 2021. That's why you could see charges for a claim that were filed almost a year ago.
And I guess another thing that we point individuals to, and you as employers can go to look at as well, is from the homepage, close to the top of the page, there's a field or a drop down that's called Unemployment for Individuals. And you can click on that benefits estimator, and it'll give you at the bottom of either, I believe, the first or the second page, it gives you that base period of which time those wages are being used. So you can kind of eyeball it and see, you know, depending on the time of the year and what base period wages are going to be used.
Okay, we had another question come in for you if you're ready.
Okay.
How long does it take to process, and when can they expect payment?
That's going to depend on what type of claim the person is filing for. If it's just a regular UI claim, they would be able to file their claims. If they filed today, the first time that they could weekly certify for the week would be on Sunday, and they would have a payment on Tuesday.
And I think also too, the main thing to remember, you know, the governor had waived off those job search requirements. And I think sometimes people confuse, just because I don't have to look for work doesn't mean that you have to go into your claim and do anything. But yet, once you file for your claim, you still have to go in each week on Sunday, as Shelley had mentioned, and certify that you're able to work, and that's how we tell the system to pay you. So I think sometimes, you know, some of that gets lost in just because I don't have to look for work doesn't mean that I have to certify. So if you are visiting with any of your staff, or you have individuals that are filing for unemployment, the first thing I think I would ask them is, did you go into your to-do list and complete that weekly certification? And the other nice feature about our unemployment system that we do have is that you can sign up for e-alerts, and anybody can, once you've established that unemployment claim, that e-alerts, if you sign it up, sign your cell phone up, you'll get a text to your phone that once correspondence gets dropped into that unemployment file, or you've got a reminder to go in each week and certify, or are there any notifications that are going to be pushed out, those would all, you would get a text and a notice right away, rather than, you know, waiting, thinking you're going to get paid and you're not doing anything in that file.
Right. The weekly certification is the only way that we know that people are still unemployed and want to receive their payment.
Okay, we have another question that came in. Are international students eligible to file for unemployment?
They would have to have base period wages in North Dakota and be back in the States and able and available for work.
Okay. Go ahead.
I was going to say, otherwise, you know, if they have worked and are directly impacted by COVID, they could always file the pandemic unemployment claim.
Okay. I have a quick question that came in. Is there a difference between laying off an employee and furloughing an employee?
Not when it comes to unemployment insurance. We consider that to be the same thing.
Okay. Is there an application for certifying that people can access?
It's most people file their claims on our website, and there's also a to-do list calendar on their UIICE website, and that has a link in the calendar that takes them to the weekly certification questions. Or they can call our automated phone system and certify over the telephone as well.
Okay. Another question. If employees are absent for 7 to 14 days under quarantine, will they be eligible for unemployment?
If they are absent from work for 7 to 14 days?
Correct. So if they were quarantined.
Oh, if they were quarantined, yes. You know, especially if they're not self-quarantining just because they're afraid of catching the virus, but if they were actually told to quarantine because they had traveled or were exposed to someone, you know, or their employer is just afraid of that they could spread it throughout the workplace, those claimants are eligible for unemployment insurance.
Okay. And there's quite a few questions on our frequently asked questions document that we have that address kind of some different situations that will give you some good advice as well.
Okay, perfect. Well, we would be happy to send that out to the people on the call today. One more question in regards to this. So when a staff member cannot get childcare and they file for unemployment, is there any requirements for that employee?
And that question is for UI again?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. Because of the schools being closed and a lot of the child care facilities have been closed down, as long as there is no suitable work that the employee can do from home, then they are eligible for unemployment insurance. If they are turning down work that they could have done from home, then we would want to know about that.
Okay, that makes sense. I'm going to actually take one more question because I'm curious about this too. So if an employee, say they had a 40-hour work week in general, but they got cut back to 20 hours, are they eligible for any unemployment?
They can certainly file a claim and do their weekly certification. I'm guessing that if they're still working 20 hours, they may be earning more than their weekly benefit amount, possibly, and would not qualify if they're reporting earnings over their weekly benefit amount. But they can certainly, file and see if they do qualify.
And
So
the
in
max
in
for
that
North
situation,
Dakota?
would it be better to just be laid off? Or, I mean, what is the best situation or scenario for something like that?
That is between the employer and the employee. We don't really get involved in that. I can say that we don't want the claimant to be turning down any work just so that they can qualify for unemployment.
Okay, that definitely makes sense.
One of the other things that I'll add is with the extra $600 top up that the federal government is offering over and above their weekly benefit amount, the amount of money that a person can earn without having anything deducted from their weekly benefit amount has to be on just their regular UI claim amount. So if their regular claim weekly benefit amount is $618, they could only earn up to 60% before we would start deducting anything for dollar. After that, it's not the 618 plus the 600 or 60% of the $1,218. It's just the 60% of the 618.
Okay. Did you two have any more to add on this? We have a couple questions about the Families First that I wanted to interject, but did you have anything else to add as far as unemployment insurance?
I just want to add that a lot of the questions that people call and ask are available on our UIICE website under the resources for individuals. If they don't want to have to wait on hold and things, a lot of the stuff they're asking is in that frequently asked document or in our resources.
Just a couple questions on the Families First. We've had some questions on, can this be intermittently taken? And that is something that you can work out with your employer. If you're allowed to, or if you're unable to work telework your normal schedule of hours due to one of the qualifying reasons, you can actually do some of this intermittently. Especially when it comes to taking care of child, things like that, it can be worked out with your employer under those circumstances. Another question that we did get is how to calculate part-time hours for the Families First Act. And so that would be the average number of work hours in a 2-week work period for that employee. That is the questions that we have. Oh, we have one more, and then we will go ahead and cut this off, but can you explain the $600 in regards to unemployment again? Can you just do a quick overview of that one more time?
For the additional $600
yes, please.
Top up. So as far as the deduction from the weekly benefit amount, I guess that is just dependent on the regular weekly benefit amount and doesn't take into consideration the additional $600. And that additional $600 that claimants will be receiving is for every claim type, whether they are on a regular UI claim, the extended pandemic unemployment claim, or just the pandemic unemployment insurance claim. They will all have that additional $600 on top of their weekly benefit amount.
Okay, thank you for that. Mm-hmm. With that, we are going to close. We want to highlight a couple other resources. The North Dakota Department of Commerce has a website that is dedicated to business resources at this time. This is where we are referring most people. It's got quick links for all of these programs that are available for businesses at this time. We also, the North Dakota Small Business Development Center, that's a great resource. We have one right here in Bowman County, provide services to Slope County and Adams County as well. We have a link to the North Dakota Job Service website. The Bowman County Development Corporation right here. Call us anytime. Please don't let yourself get overwhelmed. We will try to walk you through it. We also have an email set up, businesshelp@bowmannd.com. And then we've got a couple more links on there for you as well. So thank you again, Mary and Shelley, for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Next week, we will be actually talking about the employee retention credit, and we are excited. And thank you again for those of you who called in today. We really appreciate it.